Hashem.
Baruch
All
Hashem.
right.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Let's get going. So, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the abridged code of Jewish law, doing chapter 103, and we are up to number 9. Test. We did start it, but we'll start again, and we'll work our way through, God willing. So we're speaking about that we have a mitzvah to rejoice on Yom Tov. So test number 9, it says, now, when you eat and drink, in your rejoicing on Yom Tov, you are also obligated to provide for the stranger, the ger, the orphan, the widow, and the other needy, right? The other needy people. So, as we said, obviously, each person according to their means. Doesn't mean that you make yourself destitute to help someone else from being destitute, but whatever we can. Shnamar, as it says, Levi, and the verse says that when you rejoice, also you're going to rejoice the Levi and the stranger, the one who's the prostitute, and the orphan. But someone who just locks the doors to his courtyard, and by this we mean figuratively speaking, right? Because you're allowed to lock the front door of your house. Many places, actually, it's rather unwise to leave your front door unlocked. But figuratively speaking, he's locking the door of his courtyard, and he's eating and drinking, him, his wife, and his children, and he's not providing anything for the poor and the unhappy. This is not a rejoicing of a mitzvah. This is the rejoicing of gluttony. Right? If someone, as we mentioned the other day, it could be the way we would eat on Yom Tov might be considered gluttony during the week, on a regular weekday. But the joy of Yom Tov is something special. It's like a wedding feast or something. But if we're only thinking about ourselves and we don't think about the needy, then this is it's obviously not for God. There's a story. I don't know if it's true or it's a made-up parable. I hope it's made up just because of the story. But there was a fellow. A man, he had 2 sons. One was rather rich and one was quite poor. And they're both going to travel overseas for a wedding. The father's making a wedding of another child. And he tells the rich son, make sure your brother, get whatever he needs for the wedding. And when you come, give me the bill and I'll fix it up. Fine. So this brother, the rich one, he didn't really like spending his money too much, but his father asked, right. So he went to the local department store and got his brother and the kids, some the cheapest suits that one can imagine. And some second-hand gown for the fellow's wife, for his sister-in-law, and then he took his family to the the fanciest boutiques, and got the Anyway, they come to the wedding, and one's dressed decently, and the other one's dressed, Anyway, afterwards, and he comes and he gives the bill to the father, and the father says, I'm not paying you anything. So the rich son says, but you said I should do for your honor, and you should and you pay me back. He says, if you would have taken your brother, if you both would have got the basic ones, or you both would have got the expensive ones, then this shows you're doing for my honor. When you're doing you got yourself the fancy one and not your brother, that you did for your own honor. Right. So, like I said, I hope it's just a made-up parable and that didn't really happen in someone's family. But that's the story. So if people just eat, drink, and be merry, and just ignore the needs of others, that's not the simcha of Yom Tov. That's just an excuse for gluttony. If the thinking of others and the helping as well, again, each one according to their means. Some people have a relatively speaking, basic Yom Tov themselves because of their financial means, and they're limited to what they can help others. But they help within the, whatever they can do, they do. And generally speaking, I find with a lot of communal projects, tzedakah, otherwise, if everyone actually did the best that they could, you'd find you really wouldn't be short much. But anyway, we leave that aside. So that's not called simchas mitzvah. If we don't care about anyone else, that's called simchas gluttony. Val eilu nemar, and about this it says, it says their sacrifices will be to them like the bread of mourners. Whoever eats them will be tomei. We'll translate it spiritually unclean for lack of better translation. Because their bread, it's for themselves, for their own souls. And rejoicing such as this, kalan hilohim, it's a disgrace. Shema says, perish alpaneichem, perish chageichem. It says, I will spread feces on your faces, the feces of your festival offerings. In other words, that's not that Hashem is literally going to wipe it on your face, but that's when people ignoring others and only thinking of themselves and going overboard in the fanciest and different things, that's how Hashem considers it. Okay. Yud, number 10. Just to mention, most communities, have a fund. Many communities have a fund, particularly around Pesach time. And, like I said, each one according to their means. Not everyone has the ability, but, you might have certain households, they give the $18 to the fund, and for them, that might be significant. But others can do more. And if everyone can do what they do, then it accumulates, becomes a large total. Anyway, it's Yud, number 10. Now we're going to continue speaking about how we're meant to eat, drink, and rejoice. When a person eats and drinks and rejoices on the festival, a person should not overindulge in drinking wine or other things, in laughter and lightheadedness. And say, whoever drinks more and parties more is doing more of the mitzvah simcha. That's the wrong attitude. Because drunkenness, and being too lightheaded and too overboard, ain't a simcha. That's not joy. That's not what simcha is.
Hello.
Simcha, not only we translate as joy, but simcha is really a joy that comes from within. Now, I'm certainly not against having a l'chaim, simchas Torah, as an example, but you do see some people who seems that they can't rejoice and be happy on simchas Torah without a tremendous amount of l'chaims. It's. I think there's a fundamental difference between someone enjoying, a little bit of a l'chaim as a way of expressing their joy in the simcha, and someone who finds their joy in the bottle. There's it's a big difference, and I think again, I can't read people's minds and know what they're up to and different things, and certainly not my place to judge others. But I do think, some people just put more emphasis on the bar than they do on the Torah at Simchas Torah. It's anyway, that's Just my 5 cents worth. Of course, because everyone knows I'm not opinionated, you know. So, but anyway, you know, I went to there was one shul I used to daven in Australia. It was a small shtibel, and there was actually no l'chaim in Simchas Torah because they didn't make kiddush. They just, and I gotta say, the atmosphere was one of the most sincerely joyful places. You know, it was a place actually where Torah study was taken very seriously, and pretty much all the people who went there were starting every day in the, you know, it was actually a true simcha, not an artificial one. So people shouldn't say, you know, we're just going to eat and drink and get drunk and have party. You know, that's not a Jewish yontiv. Elohilus of sichlis. This is just this is mockery and foolishness. And Hashem never gave us a mitzvah for mockery and foolishness. So what is our joy then? Ella al simcha. Ours is a simcha sheyesh ba avodas Yitzchok. A simcha, an inner joy in the service of the creator of all things. In other words, the joy that we can have a relationship with Hashem. A joy that we can have, you know, just this is just by the way, you know, at a Jewish wedding, the bride and the groom aren't meant to drink anything. They can't have any alcohol at the wedding. Now, there's several reasons for this. Some more legalistic reasons, but one of the minor reasons, again, it's just a side. It's not the main reason would happen anyway without this, but it's to understand that the joy of their wedding is in cementing their relationship, not in drinking, right? It's not an artificial joy. The true joy is they've found the other half of their soul. But anyway, that's what we're meant to do in Yontif. We're meant to be rejoicing that we're having a relationship with Hashem, we're serving Hashem. That's and it's a privilege. You know, it's a privilege. Shnema says, Tachas asher lo yavadato es Hashem alekecho, b'simcha tov merov. It says, because you didn't serve Hashem, your God, with happiness and glad heart when you had plenty of everything, that's why certain negative things happened in history. We have this verse, what happened once. Halamanta, this teaches us, the way we're meant to serve Hashem is with simcha. Shouldn't ever be a burden, shouldn't ever be just a duty. It's a privilege. I mean, you just think about it really. I mean, here you have the infinite God, the infinite creator, and Hashem in his infiniteness still left something in this world incomplete and gave you the privilege of being able to finish off the act of creation, to do something. You know, this is incredible. And serving Hashem, having a relationship with Hashem, you know, you can't do that in lightheadedness and drunkenness and foolishness. It doesn't work that way. It's a deeper relationship. You know, without getting too off the topic, but you know, there's some people who claim that they take drugs in order to have spiritual experiences. Now, although Baruch Hashem, I don't have the experience, but I highly doubt whatever experience they're having is all that spiritual. But as a side point, even if it was, it's artificial. The point of Judaism is that whatever we do should be for real. You know, Judaism is about the journey, not about the destination. So even if we never achieved a certain height, but we put our heart and soul into getting there, that's far more valuable to Hashem than someone who cheated, so to speak, and using something artificial had the experience. If that even was a spiritual experience, which, you know, so this is the same similar idea. Okay, Yud Aleph, number 11. So till now we said what you don't do, right? So we don't ignore all the people in need. We don't get carried away in drunkenness. So what do we do? So that's what we're going to say now. Midas hachsidim asher shalmanegdom tamid v'chadaychem darhehu. The pious people, for lack of a better translation, who have Hashem constantly before them and who are mindful of all their ways. In other words, they're Hashem relationship focused. That's their motivation for doing things. So what do? Be'eis simchaschem, at the time of their joy, as Yosef Yosef Mavarchim Meshavchim the Kadosh Baruch Hu Shesmach Loisam, they bless Hashem more and more, who's enabled them to rejoice. You know, it's besides Yom Tov, let's say, you know, they make a wedding. It's not just oh, I'm doing a wedding, or it's they have an appreciation to Hashem that they were able to, you know, sometimes people, it's so difficult to find their match. Sometimes it's so difficult to have good health, seemingly so difficult. And when things go the way that they should, and we're able to have a Yom Tov and rejoice, we should really be, you know, it's just showing an appreciation and a joy, and this creates a greater joy. But Adam and a person should say in his heart, in other words, he should think at the time of his rejoicing and pleasure, and if this is the joy of this physical material world, which it's all really nothing, because at the end of the day, nothing physical lasts. You know, everything in this world, you know, unfortunately comes to grief. You know, people pass away and it's sickness. Can you imagine what the joy of the next world is going to be? That's eternal. And there's nothing bad happens after that. That just becomes perfect. And he should daven to Hashem while he's filled with this emotion. He should daven to Hashem that Hashem should help direct the person's emotions and thoughts, that they should be able to be a Jew for real, serve Hashem for all the right reasons and not ulterior motives. And that our rejoice ultimately should be an eternal rejoicing. And we should be worthy to have eternal life in Olam Haba, in the world to come, enlightened by the light of the presence of the living King. Right, so this is it's a whole different plane. That's really, you know, that's what Yom Tov is meant to bring us to.
Rabbi, could you repeat that last thing that you said, eternal rejoicing, and say that again, please?
Yeah, so we should be asking Hashem that our rejoicing should be eternal rejoicing, and we should merit life in the world to come that will be illuminated or lightened by the light of the presence of the living King, Hashem. You know, that's what our ultimate objective should be. You know, easier said than done, because when we're in the moment enjoying ourselves, we're enjoying ourselves. And often think of ourselves, but you know, if you don't have a goal, you know, sometimes you can, you know, have these people, you know, just for example, you know, they run a marathon or something, and it's a long run, but if they don't know where they're going, right? If there's no track, they just say, okay, you're going to start here. There's a finish line somewhere. And you know, it's however many miles away, but you got no idea which direction or when to turn. Then not only are you never going to get there, unless you're extremely lucky, you know, you might be going the wrong way, and you might not even develop at all. Someone at least who's running the marathon, even if he doesn't make it, he can get halfway because he's on the track. He's doing something. So even though this is a very high goal to be so sincere, and it could be for many of us, you know, that might take a whole life to get there, or maybe more than one lifetime. But if we have a goal, and we know where we're heading, then we can actually accomplish something. And we've got a chance to get in there because we know where we're going. Okay, Yud Beis, number 12. Chayav kol adam lashkiach al bnei beisoi shelital b'mokim shavu chas v'shol midei kolas roish tomim kolei das. Every person is obligated to try and prevent or their family members from going to places where people don't take it seriously, where they're just gonna, it's just party time. But rather we should encourage our people to be kadoshim, to be, we're going to say holy for lack of a better translation, but kadoshim really means spiritual, connected to Hashem. Kikodesh hayom, because it's a holy day, it's a spiritual day. So, thank God it's not too often, but there's certain synagogues where it's more, the high holidays are more about fashion shows. That's who can show off their outfit. They tell the terrible joke of the lady comes to shul, and it could have been a man also, just we're not being whatever over here, but and she's gives a very loud cough and everyone turns around, and 5 minutes later another very nasty cough and everyone turns around. And it happens a few times, and someone says to her husband, it's nasty cough. She says, no, she's fine. She just got a $5,000 dress, just wanted everyone to notice. That was the, so, and I'm not cynical. Again, I'm not opinionated. I'm not cynical, but, unfortunately some places, that's Yontif, and God forbid, but that shouldn't be, and perhaps they're not the best places to go. Yud Gimel, 13. The Motzei Yontif, l'chol, or the Cholamoid. Yontif finishes, and either we're going to a Cholamoid, the intermediate days, or we're going back to the weekday, the whole Yontif is finished. Either way. In our Amidah the Shemona Esrei, we say, Atu Chanantonu. So we said this again at the end of Shabbos, when we learned the laws of Shabbos. So there's a special prayer added to the first blessings, like a mini Havdalah. A Mavdalah Kois, and we also make Havdalah over a cup of wine. Again, just like we do after Shabbos. Avol, however, different to Shabbos, loy alanev lo b'somim. We don't make a blessing on the candle. We don't make a blessing on the spices. Those two are unique to Saturday night after Shabbos is finished, unless of course Yom Tov or Shabbos, right? But then it's because of Shabbos, not because of the Yom Tov. But everything else is the same, other than those two. Yudalad 14. Nahagin laharbes katsas bechil v'shtia b'yom shel achar chag b'chol shalosh regolim. On the 3 festivals of Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuos, we have a custom that the day afterwards we eat a little bit more than we would on a regular weekday. For Isru Chag, this day is called Isru Chag. So Isru Chag, the idea is it's like when you have an important guest and they leave you, you sort of accompany them a little bit. It's one of the ideas of Isru Chag. So this day afterwards, it's still got the feeling of the Yom Tov, still remains a little bit. So we have a little something extra. The Hagin Shein Amin Boy, and we don't fast on Isru Chag. If it's a fast day. Afilu Chosan V'Kala B'Yom Chuposam. Even a bride and a bridegroom on the day of the wedding. So normally a bride and bridegroom fast until after the service, because the day of the wedding is like their personal Yom Kippur. Everything in their life till now, they're essentially starting afresh, and it's like cleans them like a Yom Kippur, and so they fast until after the wedding. So even a bride and bridegroom don't fast if they get married in Isru Chag. Below yard site, and some people have a custom to fast on a parent's yard site. But if they do, if it was Isra Chag, if it's the day after the festival, they don't fast. But Isra Chag shel Acha Chag Shavuos. Now the Isra Chag after Shavuos, Gam Mitzad Hadin Os the Son is boy. It's not only we're accustomed not to fast, but not even allowed to fast. Why? The feast of Bizman Shebeis Hamikdash Chayikayim. Because when the Beis Hamikdash was in existence, Im Chal Shavuos b'Shabbos, if Shavuos fell out on Shabbos, then Haya Yom Tevuah HaKabonos B'Mishal Achrav. There were certain sacrifices that they brought on Shavuos, but Shavuos fell on Shabbos, they did on the day after. Now, normally, sacrifice a certain day, if it's meant to be on that day, it has to be on that day, and it'll even overruled Shabbos. But these ones they brought on Shavuos could be postponed today. And since they were, so that day, the day after Shavuos, often, semi-regular, had the special offerings that were brought on the Yontif. It's got half a Yontif in its own right. And so that the day after Shavuos is even strict about not fasting and various things. Shall Pesach, shall Sukkos, but the day after Pesach and Sukkos, any offerings that weren't offered that they weren't able to offer on the Yontif itself fell on Shabbos, they did on the weekday. So what happened is that each person, so the communal offerings that had a certain date, had a certain time, they always happened. But what would happen is a person couldn't go up on these festivals empty-handed. They had to bring a certain offering of simcha, and they would eat it at the Yontif meal. But if it fell on Shabbos, they would eat it over Chol HaMoed. Would offer and bring on a Chol HaMoed. Now, Shavuos fell, because those ones technically didn't need a specific day. And so when it came Shavuos, they would have it on the day after. Okay, any questions on this chapter? Okay, so the next chapter is about Chol HaMoed. Yeah, Mordechai.
Well, what about for, say, like the last day of Pesach, or for Rosh Mini Atzeres? Wouldn't the same thing apply?
No, because Pesach, it's still the same Yontif, so there's not a new carbon not a new one that they brought. Now, Shemini Atzeres, you would think it was, because it's its own Yontif, but in that respect, it's considered a continuation of Sukkos. So much so that there's a whole discussion in the Gemara. If someone didn't bring the offering on Sukkos, can he still bring it on Shemini Atzeres and fulfill his obligation? Right? This whole discussion, not everyone agrees to it, but there's such a thought. So in that respect, it's a continuation.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next chapter is Chol HaMoed. Chol HaMoed is a interesting. On the one hand, it's Yontif. On the other hand, it's a weekday. So, what is it? And anyway, so we'll start that, I guess, in 2 weeks. Next week, I think, is the winter break, I believe. Unless I've got the wrong week, in which case we'll start next week. But if I got the right week, next week's the winter break. We'll start in 2 weeks, God willing, and we'll have an exciting topic. Any other questions? We've still got another minute or so. Normally we go overtime. We can't finish early. No? All right. So we'll wish everyone a wonderful week. And if it is the winter break, so wish everyone a wonderful 2 weeks. And we'll see you reinvigorated after your break, ready to learn, God willing.
Have a great week. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Stay safe,
Take care.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you,
Rabbi.
Too. No more problems. Take care.